Half a century ago that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. gave his I Have a Dream speech on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. Tens of thousands of people gathered in that very spot this weekend to mark the upcoming 50th anniversary of the March on Washington. Wednesday marks the day that nearly 300,000 people marched on Washington during the Civil Rights Movement, including Congressman John Lewis, who is the last surviving speaker from 1963. He says Dr. King's dream is still a work in progress.
We cannot give up. We cannot give out. We cannot give in.
President Obama will remember Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in a speech on Wednesday, which he'll deliver in the very same spot Dr. King stood 50 years ago. While the West Coast battles that heat, the East Coast having trouble staying dry. Severe floodwaters in central New York have left at least one woman missing and hundreds of others searching for higher ground. Look at that. One creek surged more than 5 feet above flood stage on Friday, destroying businesses and shutting down roads. Fire officials in Herkimer County say emergency crews have rescued 3 people so far from their flooded homes. The American Red Cross is setting up shelter for evacuated residents of those counties. An update tonight on that tragic wedding party boating accident we've been covering all weekend out of New York. The bodies of both the bride-to-be and the best man who were killed in the crash have now been recovered. 6 members of the wedding party were on the boat when it crashed into a barge just 2 weeks before the wedding date. The 2 victims were thrown overboard. The other 4 passengers all suffered serious injuries, including the groom. The speedboat driver has been charged with first-degree vehicular manslaughter and second-degree vehicular assault. It is a brand new school year and students are ready for a fresh start, but some in East Lansing had quite a messy surprise waiting for them on move-in day. Dozens of Michigan State students moved into Chandler Crossings apartments yesterday to find them in shambles. A lot of upset folks, and perhaps rightfully so. Chandler Crossings had only 2 weeks to renovate 800 apartment rooms from the time the old students moved out until the new students moved in. Sawyer again apologized for not finishing on time, but parents and students are still frustrated that they didn't receive any kind of warning. Western Michigan University noticed it was missing an important piece of history from its East Hall. A historic metal marker was reported stolen on Thursday just outside of the Kalamazoo School's birthplace. East Hall is 108 years old, and talks of renovations to the campus has created some controversy. Police told scrap dealers to keep an eye out for the marker, but they believe it was taken for other reasons. Public Safety Chief Blaine Califat says a replacement could cost at least $4,000. 2 weeks ago, an ambulance rushed a 6-year-old boy in critical condition to the hospital after he was buried under 11 feet of sand. Today, he was in church for the first time with his family since making a full recovery. Nathan Weisner was buried for nearly 4 hours before he was rescued and rushed to a children's hospital in Chicago. He was released last week and returned home with his family. His parents say he is living proof that miracles do happen.
I remember that paramedic coming in and he said he's alive, and I don't remember anything he said after that, but those were the sweetest words I ever heard.
Weisner's parents say that he remembers very little from the ordeal. To avoid scaring him, they're only telling him small bits of information at a time. Can you imagine treading water for nearly 24 hours? Tonight we're hearing from a man who was stranded in the Gulf of Mexico after being flipped out of his boat and did just that. Jess Thomas tells us how hope kept him floating. As Morris continues to recover, he says if there's anything he's learned, it's pretty simple. If you're out in the water, wear a life vest. A group of tourists took an unexpected detour into the Hudson River in New York City this afternoon on a helicopter sightseeing tour. The pilot had to make an emergency landing when the chopper lost power. According to the FAA, the aircraft landed upright and continued floating. The pilot and his 4 passengers were rescued by nearby boats, and a tugboat pulled the helicopter to shore. On your 24-hour news 8 at 6, the wildfire in California continues to blaze through Yosemite National Forest. It's covered nearly 205 miles so far with no signs of letting up.